What's for dinner, you ask? I have you covered. Make sure you grab a list because today I am sharing 10 delicious homemade meals with you. Tonight I'm making an oldie but a goodie, and this is tater tot casserole. This is Jason's, well, one of his favorite meals that he requests, and honestly we haven't had this in quite a while. So I'm starting out with about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of scrambled burger seasoned. Then I mix a can of cream of mushroom soup and cheddar cheese soup together. I season mine again with a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I put tater tots all over the top of it. I have used those little golden crowns too. If you can't find tater tots, those work just as well. I put this in a preheated oven on 350 for 30 to 45 minutes. Tonight we are having chicken enchiladas. So I have the chicken is all pulled apart and it has taco seasoning in it, some green chilies, and a little bit of enchilada sauce. And I'm letting that simmer together so it gets nice and flavorful before I wrap it into tortillas. On my bar, when I make enchiladas, I like to set up like a little workstation, and I have my pan of chicken sitting on a hot pad. Cheese and tortillas are back here. I have a paper plate to put it on so I don't slop it all over the bar too much. And then I have my sprayed pan waiting for me to put the enchiladas into. I always put a little bit of enchilada sauce on the bottom, and then I add the enchiladas on top of that. Tonight is Kung Pao chicken. So I have the chicken and the first step of the sauce going in the pan so the chicken cooks through. And then in a bowl on the side I have the rest of the sauce waiting to be put onto the chicken once the chicken is cooked. We usually have broccoli with this, but I don't know if we're going to tonight. And then we always serve it over rice. I always make my pot roast in the crock pot, and I sprinkle this Snyder's on the top of it. I take some bouillon cubes, add a couple of them to 4 cups of water, and then sprinkle a little bit of the Snyder's seasoning into the water. Then I add those bouillon cubes to the crock pot around the beef. I add carrots, onion, potatoes, and then I top it all with the water mixture. I set it on low and cook it for 8 to 10 hours. This day I made a loaf of bread to go with it. It was a delicious meal. Tonight we are going to have an Asian meal, and it is fried chicken. And this mix we get at a local Asian store here in our town, and it has pepper and garlic in it. It is one of the best tasting breadings to put on chicken. So I have the mix in a bowl, and they say just to mix it evenly. So this equaled out to 3 cups of the flour mixture and then 3 cups of water. While the oil is heating up in our electric skillet, I actually took all the chicken and I have it soaking into the batter so it soaks up the garlic and pepper seasoning. Once the oil is hot enough, then we will continue to cook each piece individually. On the stove, we are making up rice. We're doing the first step of it, and then once it sits for the 5 minutes, then we're going to get it seasoned up to go underneath of the breaded chicken. These are the seasonings that we add to the rice. We just use them to taste, basically. However you like your rice to taste, that's how we do it. We just kind of add it. Also, for another side, we have some pot stickers that we found in the freezer. So we're cooking those up and finishing those off. To my crock pot, I added some peeled and quartered potatoes. I put a little bit of salt and pepper on the top of them. And on top of those, I'm going to put, I added some smoked sausage. And on top of that, I have added a jar of sauerkraut. Now I'm going to put this on low and have it cook together for 6 hours. Tonight we are having homemade Spanish rice. I know I've shown this on my channel before, but if you would like a separate video of how I make our homemade Spanish rice, let me know in the comments and I will get a video put together for you. Tonight we are trying a new recipe, a new kind of guacamole. Timothy found this recipe and he wants to give it a try. We are doubling the recipe, but the recipe calls for 1 avocado, 1/4 to 1/2 of an onion chopped, 1 1/2 key limes, a pinch of salt, and those ingredients we're going to put into a blender. I will have this recipe down below. After we blended the first ingredients, then we added 5 ounces of milk and 2 tablespoons of cilantro, and now we're blending it up again. This is definitely a good guacamole. It's a little different of a taste because of the key lime. The whole milk that is in this is actually used as a preservative for it to stay fresher longer. It shouldn't brown as fast as normal guacamole. This is kind of a taste test as you go. The recipe calls for only like little pinches of salt, so just definitely have a couple chips right next to you when you make this and just keep tasting until you like it. And it's a really good recipe.
Guillermo del Toro. He's a movie director.
Oh, okay. This is his family recipe for guacamole, and he suggests you to eat tostadas with it. He said that's how they eat it, and they love it. And then on the side, I am steaming up some tamales, beef tamales that we had purchased through Schwann's. This is going to be a really good meal tonight. Tonight we are having beef stew, and I'm going to get a little help from McCormick. Now I thought this was the beef stew that goes in the crock pot, and it's not, but I'm just going to prepare it right in the crock pot like I normally would. This recipe calls for a little bit of flour on the meat, but my steak is completely frozen. So I'm going to put this chunk of meat in the crock pot, and then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour over it. And I think that'll be fine. It'll thaw and it will cook in the crock pot. It'll be delicious. I know it will. It's just, oh goodness, it just isn't working out the way that I planned. But it's okay. Everything's going to be good. We're going to have a delicious dinner tonight. After I added the stew meat to the crock pot, I did add some salt and pepper to it. I'm going to add just a little bit of flour. And then I'll continue with the recipe. I added some potatoes and the small carrots. Some of the small carrots I cut up, some I didn't. They're not that big. Now I'm going to add seasoning and water. The package calls for 3 cups of water. Then I'm going to put the seasoning pack all over the top, but I'm going to stir this in a little better. I'm going to set this on low for 6 to 8 hours, and we should have a good stew ready for us tonight. Oh my goodness, am I scatterbrained today. I forgot to add onion. Oh mercy, I just have a lot on my mind today, so I'm glad I am putting a crock pot meal in because I have a lot to do. But it sure will be nice to have a warm bowl of comforting stew tonight after a busy day. I have a warming zone on my stove, and I always like to turn it on very low and set a frozen loaf of bread on it, which will be perfect with the stew tonight. The stew cooked up beautifully. It was about an hour and a half, and the meat was all thawed out. We stirred it probably twice during the 8 hours that I had cooked it, and it just turned out so good. Really tender, falling apart. Potatoes are tender. Oh, yum. Tonight's dinner is puff pastry burgers. Yum, 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 yum. I have made pastry burgers several times here on my channel. I will have the recipe linked below. What it is the pastry puff takes place of a hamburger bun. So me and Jason and Tim, we like to put cheese on ours. So I always put a slice of cheese down first. Then I top that with the hamburgers. Now the hamburger patties have A1 steak sauce and Montreal steak seasoning added to them. Me, Jason, and Timothy have onions in ours as well. Now I'm going to wrap these up like so, and then I put an egg wash over the top of it. I'm gonna put it in the oven, which is preheated to 350 for 20 minutes, and I'll show you how delicious they look when they come out. The cheese spilled out of them a little bit. Whoopsies. And then on the side, we're just gonna have some Rally's fries. Today's dinner is going to be chicken and noodles crock pot. Now I do have a video with the recipe linked below. I'll have that below in this description. So with this recipe, you pretty much just layer all of the ingredients into your crock pot. You're going to put it on low and it cooks for about 6 hours. I have shredded the chicken that was cooking all day long, and oh my goodness, this smells so good. I added it back to the broth, and now I'm going to add the pasta. I am going to mix this into the broth. I'm going to set my slow cooker back on low for 1 hour, and then this delicious soup will be ready for us to eat.